Oh, that was a pretty stealth Genesis update. Make sure you guys smash the link crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So, with YCS Columbus under our belts, featuring the first Genesis YCS main event and a bunch of OTS events, especially during the first Genesis celebration, we have enough data to do the next Genesis points update. Side note, in terms of OTS data, it looks like Genesis is a very regional format, much like the game was back in the very early days, and it's fascinating to watch it evolve all over again like in the early 2000s. That's pretty interesting to take note of. Previously, we did a preview article before each point list, but last time there was a lot of speculation, panic that was excessive. So this time we're doing the points update and a companion article at the same time. So what were people playing at YCS Columbus? The distribution decks of YCS Columbus was a lot more spread out, and the most common decks were Red Dragon, Archfiend, Monarchs, Doomsday, and Dark Lords, followed closely by a cluster of Radiant Typhoon, Clown Crew, Magnet Warriors, and Mimighoul. RDA and Radiant Typhoon were the most successful decks, with 4 duelists each in the top 32 and 2 of each in the top 8. And the finals were RDA versus Radiant Typhoon. Monarch got 3 of the top 32, but didn't quite make it to the final cut. As always, we're clamping down on cards in similar groups for discussion, but first, here are some of the top deck adjustments. So Crimson Blade Dragon's going from 0 to 10, Power Vice is going from 5 to 6, Dark Lord DJ Ahuti's going from 0 to 5, Eidos is going 0 to 5, Mimighoul Dungeon's going to 5, and Radiant Typhoon Crocea 0 to 7. I mean, okay. Oh, here we go. The defense of Illusion Gate. The most played card in the tournament was Illusion Gate, with a 56% of all players using at least one copy. One copy isn't shocking, since it can only apply its effect once per duel, but about 12% of the field had 3 in the main deck. On other popular removal options include Dark Hole, which was 20% of the duelist, Ultimate Slayer, which was 14%, various kaijus not named Gamma Seal, and the Final Bringer of the End of Times at 14%. Gamma Seal, on the other hand, being the lowest stat kaiju, was 6 times as common as the next most played kaiju. We've debated on whether to consider kaiju on a name-by-name basis or treat all kaijus the same, but for the time being we're considering them as individual cards, so only Gamma Seal gets tagged, and we'll see how things shake up with that. Okay. I see you. Usage spikes, non-engine. There are a few non-engine cards that saw a massive jump in play since the last data adjustment. The Heralds have seen a 10 times increase in their usage since the February Proto YCS. Part of this was as an increase in decks that have a lot of fairy monsters like Fluffle, Dark Lord, and Purely, plus decks splashing things like Keldo, the Sacred Protector. So let's talk about Dimensional Fissure. Alright, we know a lot of folks have been wringing their hands over this card since Genesis launched, but its actual usage rate has been extremely low in all of the actual decks thus far until YCS Columbus. At Columbus, the most rivaled card in the format finally had an event where its reputation and its registration numbers started to align. Even though a massive spike didn't even reach 20% of all decks, still being in the higher teens is finally enough to get it on the radar and get some points. Before you ask, Dimensional Shifter continues to decline in use with every event. No, we aren't planning to lower its points, but an increase isn't justified by the data either. We'll continue to watch every bit of data on these two cards very closely. Finally, despite the point increase in March, the usage of Nibiru the Primal Being went up and by about a third, which is significant, and its users were very, very successful. So Nibiru's cost will tick up again a bit. So, additional tick-ups here. So we're going to see Book of Eclipse going 3 to 4, Book of the Moon down to 3, Dimensional Fissure to 10, Gamma Seal to 3, Illusion Gate to 10, Shared Ride to 1, Artifact Lancia to 1, Herald of Orange Light to 3, Herald of Green Light to 2, Herald of Purple Light to 1, Malchar Mifua to 1, and Nibiru to 8. Okay. Another look at Blazing Dominion. We initially costed Power Vice Dragon aggressively after considering the RDA deck already had almost half of its points tied up in the extra deck, and it was going to get at least one more extra deck monster in the 10 to 15 range, possibly two. After watching the deck storm through the YCS like the Master of Faster himself, and looking at the numbers, Power Vice Dragon was only slightly low, and we need to make RDA pay for the Crimson Blade Dragon as well by giving it some points. We were worried that we might have overcosted the Clown Crucibles and Trapped Flare at 0 to ensure players could at least try the deck out. But it had a pretty good debut, despite not landing any duelists in top 8. Some players had concerns about the Wicked Avatar being an achievable monster in the deck, while we can understand. However, players have not been trying to make the Wicked Avatar work, and of nearly 20 years now. So if there comes a day when the Wicked Avatar is able to replicate a past success like Destiny or Plasma, it will receive the same treatment. Princess Draconia saw more play than we thought, which was nice, but only one player rode up with an Earth Machine strategy, which was less nice. Miracle Ejector escaped containment very quickly. It's unfortunate for Hero fans, but it's certainly not the first time in the game's history something like this happened. So shared engines and best in slots. Speaking of Miracle Ejector, it falls under the category cards that were intended for a specific deck but broke containment and are seeing a lot of play beyond the theme. This is also where the basic Cool Toon monsters land now that they've become an engine in multiple synchro strategies. In addition to their own spell card, Soul Exchange is doing its best impression of super polymerization across multiple decks. The Exceed decks have also become extremely efficient in splitting up F-Zeros, and the synchro decks are tending towards generic use of Sword Soul Chang Ying. So, cleanup time! So, Magnum is going to 6, Magnet Bonding to 5, Miracle Ejector to 5, Earthbound Prisoner Sweeper to 5, Keldo to 2, Cool Toon Clip Q to 7, Mix and Rico to 5, Heavy Poly to 3, Mudora to 2, Spellcard Soul Exchange to 13, Chang Ying to 10, Zaylin to 12, Utopic Future Draco to 25, and Utopic Future Zexal to 5. Oh, that's rough. Shenanigans! For as long as SJC and YCS events have existed, there's always been at least one person in the room trying to assemble Exodia, but this was no different. Those who come after will have a tougher time, and the continuous strategies was Hero that had element to Hero Cosmoneus filling the same role as Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. It's an interesting case, but because Cosmoneus isn't being cheated out like King Calamity was, the whole point of the Hero combo is to gather the correct materials, then use Favorite Contact to fuse them, and we'll price Cosmoneus the same as King Calamity because of similar effects. But Favorite Contact does not get points at this time. So Cosmoneus to 21, Tachyon Primal to 5, Dark Lord X Chill to 7, Inferno and Evil to 7, Magical Mallet to 3, Subspace Battle to 5, Chicken Game to 10, Upstart to 10, and Into the Void to 10. And decks almost no one registered. Plenty of people have been running Sword Soul Chang Ying as a generic synchro, but no one has actually been playing it as a deck in Sword Soul. So we've done a bit of rebalancing on the theme. Lyrillist keeps showing up as an engine rather than a distinct strategy, so moving forward, we're going to base those points around that as well. Union Hanger is dropped again as well, and there's a bunch more. Okay, so what are we dropping here? So it looks like Big Welcome Labyrinth to 15, Change Your Heart to 3, Crystalline Inclusion to 10, Crystron Sulfador to 3, Dark End Evaporation to 0, Danglong to 10, Dragonic Diagram to 10, Tidying to 1, Dragons of Light and Darkness to 1, Duality to 1, Philia Regius to 7, Fire King Ukalonix to 15, Foolish Grail to 25, Chalice to 1, Lance to 1, Gigantic Sprite to 7, Glow Bulb to 15, Goblin Biker to 12, Guardian Chimera to 20, Infinite Permanence to 11, that's interesting, Interrupted Kaiju Slumber to 0, Iron Thunder to 3, Lyrilless Berghold down to 5, but Sapphire Swallow and Turquoise Wobbler up to 3. And then Magician's Soul's down to 10, Sigma to 5, Metamorphosis to 3, Monster Reborn to 3, Nash Knight to 13, Necker Valley to 25, Nightmare Throne to 13, Phantom U-Bell up to 88, yikes. Pot of Desires to 15, Premature to 2, Rescue Ace Airlifter to 3 with Preventer to 7. We also get Return from the Different Dimension down to 20, Return of the Dragon Lords to 3, Ritual Beast Tamer to 3, Sheehan Smoke Signal to 20, Snatch Steel to 2, Sword Soul Emergence to 7, Cheese Out to 10. Looks like Sword Soul Long Yun down to 1 with Hyper Librarian to 20, Ashuna to 0, Union Hanger to 5, Virtual World My Hime Lulu to 0, and Welcome Labyrinth to 15. Okay. Why did it take so long to get base point data update? We don't want to base changes entirely off the data from OTS, as players use these events to experiment with new strategies, practice for big events, and just generally mess around and have a good time. We are thinking of changing things up before there's even a chance to try what they've been working on, but we do think as long as there's at least one big event, it's fair game, even if we couldn't personally attend the event. That's pretty interesting. There was an unusually long amount of time between major Genesis events this time around, largely because there was no Genesis main events at Team YCS's through March and April. We're all team events, and there shouldn't be any issue anymore now that the big top events have begun. In the future, we'll be at plenty monthly events for YCS and so forth. So, next point update will coincide with the premiere event for Chaos Origins, and of course, Glorious Gallery. Don't forget, each WCQ will be having an event going forward. So, interesting. So what do you guys think about everything? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.